From the moment the airplane doors closed, an air of tension filled the cabin. Among the passengers settling into their seats, one black traveler quietly found his place. What began as a routine flight quickly turned uncomfortable when a sharp-tongued air hostess singled him out, her comments laced with unwarranted judgment. Passengers shifted in their seats, unsure whether to intervene or remain silent. The man, calm but visibly disheartened, kept his composure while the air hostess's behavior continued to draw attention. As whispers of discomfort rippled through the cabin, the stage was set for an unexpected twist no one could have foreseen. What would cause such bold actions from the air hostess? And how could her treatment of this passenger result in a surprising fate that would leave everyone stunned? Stay tuned for a tale of accountability, kindness, and the ultimate power of fate to change everything. The quiet passenger glanced out of the window, his face a mix of patience and quiet resolve. He seemed used to this sort of treatment, though that didn't make it right. The air hostess, however, wasn't done. Her subtle but pointed remarks continued as she moved through the aisles, casting disapproving glances that made even nearby passengers uncomfortable. Some exchanged looks, unsure of whether to step in or stay out of it entirely. A woman seated nearby whispered to her companion, "Why is she acting like this? He hasn't done anything wrong." But their murmurs weren't enough to break the tension. The man sighed quietly, pretending to focus on his book, but the strain in his posture betrayed his efforts to remain calm. Meanwhile, the captain made an announcement, setting the course for the journey. Little did anyone know, fate was already in motion, preparing a dramatic turn no one could expect. As the flight progressed, the air hostess seemed determined to push the boundaries further. With serving refreshments, her tone was noticeably colder towards the black passenger, handing him his drink with an abruptness that didn't go unnoticed. A few rows away, a young woman with a kind expression kept watching the interaction, her discomfort growing. She couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was at play. The cabin buzzed softly with passengers murmuring and exchanging uneasy glances, but no one openly spoke up. The man, though calm on the surface, couldn't fully hide the flicker of frustration in his eyes. His attempts to stay polite, even in the face of thinly veiled rudeness, seemed to weigh heavy. From the cockpit, a sudden announcement disrupted the rhythm of the flight. "Turbulence ahead," the captain warned. Yet it wasn't just the weather brewing. It was something far greater that no one on board could predict. As turbulence shook the plane, the already tense atmosphere grew heavier. Passengers tightened their seatbelts and braced themselves, but the conflict between the air hostess and the black passenger was far from settled. When she approached him again, her tone carried an unnecessary edge. "Please ensure your belongings are properly stored," she snapped, though his area was already perfectly neat. The young woman who had been silently observing finally decided she couldn't hold back any longer. With a steady but firm voice, she called out, "Excuse me, is there a reason he's being singled out?" Heads turned and the air hostess paused, her mask of professionalism cracking slightly. Caught off guard, the air hostess hesitated before replying, but before she could, another passenger spoke up in support. "She's right. This doesn't seem fair at all." The murmurs grew louder, rippling through the cabin like an unstoppable wave, setting the stage for an unexpected reckoning. The air hostess froze, her expression a mix of frustration and unease, as more passengers chimed in. "Is something wrong with how he's acting?" "Because I don't see an issue," said an older man, his voice stern. Others nodded in agreement, the murmurs of dissent growing louder. The black passenger, clearly uncomfortable with this sudden attention, tried to wave it off. "Please, it's not worth causing a scene," he said softly, but his words only deepened the resolve of those speaking out. Before the air hostess could respond, The pilot's voice came through the intercom again, unusually urgent. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've received word of an in-flight medical emergency." Guests rippled through the cabin. A passenger nearby suddenly called for help. An elderly woman had collapsed. Chaos erupted as people scrambled to make room, with the hostess hurriedly moving to assist. But as the woman's condition grew more serious, it became painfully clear they would need a hero. As the elderly woman's condition worsened, the cabin crew scrambled, searching for anyone with medical training. The air hostess, visibly flustered, fumbled through the announcement. "If there is a doctor or nurse on board, please come forward immediately." A hush fell over the cabin, and then, breaking the silence, the black passenger calmly stood up. "I'm a doctor," he said, his voice steady but commanding. The tension in the air shifted instantly as he made his way toward the woman, who was pale and unresponsive. With swift precision, he assessed her condition, calling out instructions to the crew and reassuring the woman's terrified family. Passengers watched in awe as his calm demeanor turned the chaos into controlled urgency. As the crisis passed and the woman began to breathe steadily again, the air hostess stood frozen, realizing how wrongly she had judged him. But then he turned to her, offered a small smile, and said, "Next time, maybe don't judge a book by its cover." The cabin erupted in applause, but the moment wasn't about praise. It was about something deeper. A quiet but profound lesson had landed for everyone on board, including her. As the plane began its descent, the atmosphere inside the cabin was entirely different. Passengers exchanged grateful smiles with the doctor, some even offering words of thanks as he returned to his seat. The air hostess, clearly shaken by how the day had unfolded, quietly approached him. Her tone was softer now, filled with genuine regret. "I'm so sorry for how I treated you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked at her kindly and simply nodded. "It's never too late to start treating people better," he replied. The plane touched down and passengers clapped, partly for the safe landing and partly in recognition of the hero who had saved the day. As they gathered their belongings, it was clear that the flight had left more than just a destination behind. It had delivered a powerful reminder about empathy, humanity, and the danger of judging others too quickly.